Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Heat Roundtable. My name is Amir, joined today by the entire crew. We have Ernest from Miami Heat Talk, we have Trent from Miami Heat Network, and we have Martel from the Miami Heat Zone podcast. And we also have a special guest today. We got Nick joining us from Chat Sports. How are you doing today, Nick?
Yeah, good. I'm glad to be on here, talk some Heat hoops. That's always a good thing. So
Yes,
appreciate y'all
sir.
having me on.
Yeah,
Thanks for
no
coming
problem.
on, brother.
So the Miami Heat are 34 and 26, and we're currently the seventh seed in the East, and we're only 5 games back from the Bucks for the third seed, and we're only a game and a half from the Knicks, which are the fourth seed. So the Heat are playing the best stretch of basketball this season, and they most recently beat the Utah Jazz this past season, thanks to Jimmy Butler going off. So before we get into that, I just want to give Spo a quick shout out too because he was named the Eastern Conference Coach of the month of February. We went 8-3, and sorry, my daughter just jumped on my lap right now. But yeah, the Heat have been amazing, and we've won 8 out of the last 10 games, and we've won 10 out of the last 13. So we've had the number one defense. But anyway, the Heat have had the best defense since February, and our offense has definitely improved because Jimmy Butler has officially been activated and is in playoff Jimmy mode. So, Nick, the Miami Heat have one of the easiest schedules left in the NBA. We have 22 games. What are your thoughts on the Heat currently right now, and how excited are you that Jimmy Butler has finally awoken?
Yeah, well, it seems like it's always pre All-Star break Jimmy and then post All-Star Jake Jimmy. I'll take the post All-Star break every time. And when he's locked in and this Heat team is locked in, I truly think there's never any team that can beat us in 7 games. Obviously, this year's a little different. Boston's upgraded their roster. They're pretty talented. But when I look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, I'm still not concerned about anyone other than the Celtics. And obviously, there's really no way to try to land in a seed per se. You just want to win every game you play, and you go out there to play and win the game. But if the Heat are on the opposite side of the bracket of Boston come mid-April, I truly think we're set up for round 4 of an Eastern Conference Finals of Heat Celtics, and I'm going to take Jimmy's chances every single time unless they prove they can beat us consistently. So really, I think the only thing that can hurt Miami from here on out is the health aspect. Obviously, Tyler's already been ruled out of Tuesday's game against Detroit. It's been a little concerning to me of his history of injuries and how he could never stay on the court, it feels like. But if the Heat are fully healthy going into the postseason, and I just don't see a team other than Boston that really is going to give Miami troubles, because that's kind of my outlook for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Preach.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on. But when you look at the Miami Heat right now, and you kind of mentioned like with Tyler Hero, why do you think that the Miami Heat always play better when he's out? Do you think that Duncan Robinson should go back to the bench when he returns? What's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating discussion. I kind of looked at some statistics there, and I'm not per se like blaming everything on Tyler Hero. It's just the roles, right? Like Tyler, I think if he tried to take a step back and be more of a movement shooter rather than the isolation ball handler and creator that he tries to be, I think he could fit into that Duncan role, not as effectively as Duncan can, that's for sure. But it's just all about the spacing to me, and the pick and roll and the chemistry that Duncan and Bam have to me are absolutely unmatched. And when those two are running that two-man action, whether it be on the top of the key, the right wing, the left wing, it's just that Duncan has so much gravity, and when he's shooting the ball right and defenses have to key in on him, it just opens up everything for others, whether it be Bam on a slip, then he has to get doubled, and he could kick it out for some open shots as well. I do see the discussion between why Duncan should start, but my thing is like you're paying, and I hate to use the money aspect in this, but you're paying Tyler to be 30 million, and I would be okay putting him to the bench because I do think he's better well served as the sixth man. But the issue is when you have Pat Riley coming almost from above and telling Tyler, you're going to be this special scorer. We're not trading you for anyone that's not going to be a top 75 player of all time, if you believe that report from the summer. It kind of just puts this thing in Tyler's head where he's got to do this one specific thing when maybe he is more well served of being a better version of Jordan Clarkson as a sixth man and inserting Duncan into the starting lineup. I think it's an interesting thing. Like Pat Riley keeps on saying, you got to do this. You got to do this. We want you to improve to this. You're going to be the next Donovan Mitchell or something like that. And maybe that's just not what he is. And maybe that's something this front office has to take a look at in the offseason.
I like that, man. That's a really good point, because I've said in my channel a lot of times how I feel that Tyler is the best optional piece coming as a six man. Not because I feel that Duncan's better or anyways, because if you put Tyler out there with the second unit, the Miami Heat, I feel, is just going to have a better chance of winning games. So, and the point that what you said of Pat Riley makes a lot of sense, Nick. So I appreciate that. But I do got one for you, man. And all of us have talked about this individually on video. So I want to get your take on this channel. We know one of the biggest holes that we've had is a starting power forward position. And I know a lot of us love Nikola Jovic at that position. So I'm going to change gears a little bit. I'm going to ask you this. Going into the playoffs, do you feel that Nikola Jovic is the best option at that power forward position? Or would you prefer someone like a Caleb Martin, a Haywood Highsmith, or maybe even like a Jaime Jaquez? Because we know how Spo likes to go not even 9-man, maybe like an 8-man rotation. So I want to hear your thoughts on that, my dude.
Yeah, I love Nikola Jovic. I feel like I'm one of the biggest fans of his. I've gone back just even before this year even started that I was watching him in that Serbian FIBA World Cup games. I was like, this dude's got some special talent. And we've always wanted that power forward next to Bam and Jimmy, right? Everyone was like, John Collins, trade for Laurie Market and stuff like that. But maybe Jovic can fill that role. But to your point, and I think it's a good thing, I think it's all dependent on matchups when you look at that power forward position. Like we even saw it, obviously there's a lot of injuries, but last season, Kevin Love kind of was inserted in that starting lineup for some of the postseason games. And then later on against Boston, it became Caleb Martin starting in that 4 spot. So I appreciate Spo for not being stuck and gung-ho to one specific power forward. If I had to anticipate it and give my prediction, I think Jovic is going to continue to be the starting lineup. It's just a question of, and this could go even back to the Tyler Hero Duncan conversation as well. Like we make a big deal of the starting 5. And yes, that is supposed to be your number 1 lineup. But to me, the biggest concern and the thing that we should look at is who are the 5 people closing the games? Because it's often been a Jaime Jaquez, Caleb Martin. So it's all about who can play in those final 5 to 6 minutes when it's clutch time, which, boy, we know Miami likes to play a lot of those games. So I'm not so focused on the starting lineup. I'm more looking at who can close. And maybe that is different on a dependent game and who's feeling good and who's not shooting the ball that well or playing well that specific day. But Caleb just got so much experience. I would expect Caleb Martin to close every single game. Don't know if he starts, but I feel like the way he balled out in the postseason last year, and you're starting to see him ramp up here post All-Star break as well. I believe he's shooting 60+% from beyond the arc in the 6-7 games since the All-Star break. So I think Caleb probably will be the one to close next to Jimmy and Bam if you're looking at that power forward spot.
Nick, I like what you brought up about Mr. Pat Riley. Now, I just want to bring a little reference. When you look at the Dallas Cowboys, right, you brought up a point of him making Tyler Hero this wonder boy, and he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Reminds me a lot of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones does this with the Dallas Cowboys, and we hate him for it, and that's why we feel like we'll never win with him up top, with the Jones family up top. So I thought that was very curious to hear. But I want to bring up another point outside of this Tyler Hero stuff. If you don't know, I'm not the biggest Tyler Hero fan on this pod. I think he needs to get out of here. That injury scares me. He's dealing with injuries every single season. He's inconsistent in the playoffs. I think those 2 things right there is disaster. And we have a better record without him in the starting lineup. And Duncan, we continue to talk about Duncan. It's not about how good the player is. It's about fit and style in the NBA. It's simple as that. You can have 5 great players on the court, but they won't work out together. It's simple. You know what I'm saying? But I want to go on to this thing where it's a lot of people covered today. I'm pretty sure you talked about it too. Is this clown Bill Simons, whatever his damn name is, coming for the Miami Heat and talking trash bad on our name. I'm sure I could read a little bit of it, of him pretty much saying that we got lucky and this Heat culture is fake luck and this and that. Have you seen the article?
I did see what he had to say.
Yeah, so I just want to hear what you got to say about that. Are you putting any attention to that, or like just go off on this clown dude because he just like he sounds just like a big hater, like the biggest hater, you know?
Well, I'll start with this. It's like I was actually surprised to see him kind of slander the Miami Heat name because as much as he dislikes us because of how much success we've had against his Boston Celtics over the past decade plus a little bit, he has always been complimentary of us and always feared us more than any other team in the league. Like I've listened to his podcast here and there because I do think he does a good job outside of when he's talking about Miami and Boston specifically, because then his biases creep in. And he's said in the past of like how he thinks this Heat team is more threatening than the team last year because of the additions of Jaime Jaquez, Duncan Robinson's full-on resurgence. And so it caught me by surprise almost that he went to go slander us and start saying we had luck. You know what the real like issue I have with it? It's not luck. It's just the ability to scout and find talent. Like you think it's luck that the Heat are finding undrafted Gabe Vincents, Max Strus, Caleb Martins. Like it's not luck. We're not looking at any of these things. If you have a problem with the way this Heat culture is presented, then go beat us. But as long as they're going to continue to lose in the postseason for the most part to this core, like go keep your own Boston Celtics and be cool with them.
Yeah, that's so funny. Trent's from Boston, and it's Bill Simmons. He's not a Boston fan, which is good. We welcome.
He doesn't
Trent.
deserve his name to be said correctly.
That's totally fair. I agree with you. You know, I agree with that. But it's funny too. You mentioned that because again, yeah, our scouting department, like just our developmental system, like those are the big issues too. Like other players that are undrafted have played on other teams and have been semi-successful, but they don't have that player development, that system that we do have, that coaching that we do have, the executives that we have. We have the Godfather, we have the GOAT, right? Like Andy Ellsberg's the best guy in cap management, like Spo's the best coach. So we have a really good scouting department, which is great. So it's not luck that we got Jaime late. Like the Lakers are just stupid. They mentioned that in the article too. Like why did they not pick him? Who knows? But that's to our benefit. It wasn't luck. It was their stupidity, right? It was our gain. So, but yeah, to your point, I like how Bill Simmons, like he's an enemy, right? You keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. I think that's how he kind of operates, where he kind of gives us some kudos, even though he hates us probably, but he understands basketball, right? Even though he is a clown. So I thought that was a funny article. And I don't know. I mean, it just, to your point earlier, Nick, it just does seem like we are going to be playing the Boston Celtics. And I hope we do. But Ernest, you were talking about seeding today too. So I want to ask you both. So how important do you think seeding is? Because I think it's extremely important. I want us to get a top 4 seed, which is obviously within reach. It's a game and a half, right? And Jalen Brunson even got hurt. Knicks are falling apart, and I love it because it shows how deep the Heat are. All that next up men like mentality bullshit. I don't think that only applies to the Heat. That's in sports. Everybody's hungry and wants to play. That's not in a rotation on any team. But we like stay afloat. Like look what happened to the Knicks. They've won 3 out of the last like 9 games because they have major injuries, but so did we. Jimmy's missed 19 games. Heroes missed 24. So how important do you think seeding is? And do you think it's important to just get a top 4 seed, or are you okay with like a 5th and 6th seed?
Personally, I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. I want any seed that isn't 4 or 5. I actually do not care. I mean, home court would be nice, and the dream scenario to me is we climb up to the 3 seed and catch either Cleveland or Milwaukee for one of that. But I just don't want to play Boston in the second round because here's my thing. I think if the Heat and Celtics match up, I think it will be a 7-game war. I truly believe it's going to go the distance like it did last season. It will be physically draining. It will be mentally draining. And I don't want the Heat have to do that before the Eastern Conference Finals because they could be limping into that matchup, and whether it be New York, Cleveland, or Milwaukee, getting us in the conference finals not completely at our best. But if that happened in the conference finals, then, well, the next series is the NBA Finals. So that you really should not have to have any concern about being amped up and ready to go for that because that is the end-all, be-all. So to me, I think as long as we don't have to play Boston in the second round, cool with me. So if they want to be the 6, I'd prefer not to be in the play-in and risk being the 8 seed. But if they ended up being the 7 seed, I don't got an issue with that. Not concerned with Milwaukee, not concerned with Cleveland. Sure, it would stink not to have that possible game 7 at home, but the Heat have shown time and time again they don't care where the game is. They're going to go out there and they're going to give it their all.
I agree with everything you said, Nick. You said it in this beautiful, elegant, amazing way, but I'm going to get cocky as hell at it. I just want Boston in the Eastern Finals because I want to whoop that ass in the 7-game series in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you know this. I'm a pro wrestler. We all about the story. We whooped that ass in 2020. We lost in 2022. We whooped it last year when we only had a 3% chance, ESPN. And we're going to do it again this year because it's all about the story. So you said it in a beautiful way. I'm going to say it in the Heat way. I just want that ass in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I know Miami's going to do it. But everything you said, brother, everything you said, I agree with it 100%. I don't want 4th. I don't want 5th. Give me 6th, 2nd, 3rd. 2nd or 3rd is beautiful, but that's a pipe dream. Just stay away from the play-in. I don't want Jimmy Butler, Kevin Love. I don't want those guys that have to play in a play-in game. So if we can stay 6th, 2nd, 3rd, that's the beautiful pipe dream. Just stay away from 4th and 5th. Nick, you said it beautifully, my friend.
Also,
so I wanted to add this too. Like, an issue with being the 4-5 seed is, like, I think it's a very high possibility that first round series, if you're in the 4th or 5th spot, could be against New York. And I think the Knicks are, if I had to rank teams threatening Miami, like a fully healthy Knicks team. Now, if that will ever happen, who knows? But I think it would be Boston 1 in terms of threats to Miami. I would put New York 2 because they play very physical. They're a good defensive team. And if we had to play New York in the 4-5 game, I think that would go maybe not the distance, but it would be 6, it'd be 7 games, very physical, defensive slugfest, and then having to carry that into a Celtics series in the second round. That to me would be nightmare fuel. Like, it would be the hardest path possible to have to go New York, Boston, and then whoever in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's why, to me, if you can avoid New York and Boston and leave them on that other side, it's going to be a conference final between Miami and Boston again, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I would say this real quick, right? I'm the one that always says I don't want to see the Knicks. I'll be the one on the podcast to say I'm kind of tired of, like, seeding wise in the sense of let's not take a regular season and beginning not too serious, because then we get into positions like this where it's just like, let's just get this top 6 seeds. And I get it. I know how this team can be. We could be anybody. We can be in the championship. But it's just like we're putting us in positions that we shouldn't really be. Like, when we look at the standings of this Eastern Conference, why the hell are the Cavaliers in 3rd seed? That can easily been us. That's easily us. We was hot in the beginning of the year. Let's not forget. We was that top seed earlier in the year, then the mid part, losing streak, and now we're starting to kick it up. But it's just frustrating to me, man. And Martell always says it, like, Jimmy, he load managed, and I get it. It's not on him. But these are the times where Tyler, now Bam, and all the other role players need to step up so we can have good seeding, because every single season, like, we're going to be 4, 5, 6 possibly playing. And that's just not what we want to do with. And how close it is, it's scary. We're in 7th seed right now. Like, look, if you look at the Knicks, they're 36-25. We're 34-26. You got the Magic, the 76ers. It's so close. Like, one lost game can literally change this whole thing. And when we look at our schedule, it may look like we got the easiest schedule, but as Heat fans know, we struggle against the easiest teams. Like, we got Detroit coming up 3 times. 3 times! You're telling me we're going to beat them 3 times in a row? Bro, I hope we do, but I don't see it. I really don't see it, because Heat come out here, they beat a Sacramento Kings team. Great. Then they go struggle against Portland. Then they go beat the Jazz by 6, and then we play Pistons tomorrow, and somehow we're going to lose. And then we beat the Mavericks. Like, and then we're going to beat OKC, and it's like, why can't we play consistent all the time? And that's the frustrating part about this Heat team. But like I said, I don't want to see New York. I don't want to see them. And if we got to play Boston early, it is what it is. But like you said, let's avoid them for now, and let's end their dreams having them the best record with 12 losses, see them in the Eastern Conference Finals, and send them home right then and there.
So when it comes down to the Boston Celtics, how do you think that the Boston Celtics will match up with Porzingis? Because if he's healthy, Trust me, like I am on the same page with you guys. I really only think it's the Boston Celtics that are the only threat to the Miami Heat, but you really can't sleep on Drew Holiday. You really can't sleep on Porzingis. So, you know what I mean? Like I know that the Boston Celtics they always fumble the bag somehow, but we got to take them serious this year. And how do you think they're going to deal with Porzingis' size?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at that specific matchup with this Celtics team this year, that's where Nikola Jovic comes into play, in my opinion. That is where Miami has to have two bigs on the floor at all times, whether it be a combination of Jovic and Bam, Kevin Love and Bam, Kevin Love and Jovic. Because what Boston likes to do is they like to outsize you, and there's a lot of times when they're fully healthy that they run a Horford Porzingis lineup when they bring L off the bench, or if they bring Cornette at times as well. But even if they don't go double big lineup and Porzingis is their center, and the Heat still run a two big lineup, well, guess what that allows Bam to do? Because then you put Jovic and Kevin Love on Porzingis, and sure, is it the best matchup? No, but it's not like Porzingis is going to really take you off the dribble anyway. They're going to try to get him in post-up situations, which I think Kevin Love could handle with his size. And then Jovic's length could maybe contest some shots for Porzingis as well. But that gives Bam the ability to roam and switch on defense and switch on the Jason Tatum, switch on the Jaylen Brown, use his quickness, physicality, and length to really disrupt those elite wings in Boston. So if you're asking me, and I know it's unfortunate because Eric Spoelstra likes to play a lot of small ball, but if the Heat and Celtics play up with this iteration of Boston having Porzingis, you have to have two bigs on the floor almost, I wouldn't say all the time, but I'll go 80% of the time, whether it be one of those three-man or possible lineups that Miami can run. They got to have it at all times.
Yeah, I agree. Now, let me ask you a question, Nick, right? Who cares about the Eastern Conference? We'll be all right. The big question is the West, because to win a championship, you have to beat a Western Conference team. It's simple as that. And I've been saying this to the guys for a while now, right? You probably can see in the back right there, that's the Clippers and Bucks playing right now. I'm scouting these two teams. But anyways, the West don't scare me at all, right? But there's two teams that kind of fear me, and there's one team that we just can't beat, and that's the Nuggets. We do not want to see the Nuggets. We can't beat the Nuggets at all. I don't care I just don't think we can beat that team. But when you look at the West, what outside of the Nuggets, what teams do you be like, I do not want to see them if they was to go to the NBA Finals and face the Miami Heat? I was saying the Clippers, but the Clippers have been playing not the greatest basketball lately, and also Russell Westbrook just fractured his hand. So there is a lot of stuff that's kind of slowing down on their end. But outside of the Nuggets and Clippers, is there any team that you like, I don't want to face them?
Yeah, it's interesting. Then I completely agree with you on Denver. I always have been saying this, and it's like I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if Miami and Denver play in the NBA Finals again, we're probably gonna get chalked up. Like we at least as currently constructed do not have a roster to compete with Denver, and maybe that's where the offseason last year, like maybe if you have Dame and you have that electric third player next to Jimmy and Bam, it changes things. But that's different discussion. I just don't know if we could currently beat the Nuggets. The Clippers do actually scare me. I don't know how you guys feel about Clippers, but if we played with them, I would give Bam a solid chance to have a really good series there. But with Kawhi and PG, we have always had issues with them. And Kawhi, when he's locked in on a two-way level and he's fully healthy, like
He's dangerous.
the reason why we've always been able to have success over the last 4 years is because in every NBA playoff series we've had, Jimmy Butler's been the best two-way player. Well, when Kawhi Leonard's locked in, there's not really much better than him. So that's the biggest issue. Like you put Kawhi on Jimmy and Kawhi's locked in defensively, well, you might not see as an effective as Butler, which then allows them to put Paul George on, maybe Tyler Hero. I think that's a nightmare matchup. I will say this. I think OKC has a real chance to come out the West this year. I love their game. My question is, are they too young? But SGA to me, and I've been saying this for a while now, I think he's the third best player in the NBA. The way he could impact the game on a defensive side, he's a great two-way guard. He might be the best two-way guard in the entire NBA right now. Like leads the league in steals. He's been unbelievable. But I will kind of push back on my own and kind of be contradictory. Like I'm not really fearing them. Like if we match up with Minnesota or OKC in the finals, kind of riding with Miami, LA, Clippers, and the Nuggets could go probably towards the West.
I don't see anybody outside the Nuggets really being a threat in the West, because I was thinking OKC, like, too young. They can contend in a year or two, but then they do kind of remind me of the OKC team, the young OKC team that played the Miami Heat in the 2011 or 2012 finals when we won our first championship with the Big Three. So, I mean, they, like, outside of Durant, they had that. Durant is like the Shea, right? Like, superstar, the elite one. I mean, Harden was a sixth man. He wasn't even starting yet. He didn't become elite until he went to the Rockets. So it's kind of like Jalen Williams, who's like in his second year and like going to be that type of guy. But I don't feel any threat with the T-Wolves or the Thunder, and I don't think the Clippers can make it that far because, two words, James Harden, biggest choke artist in NBA history. So that alone cursed them right there, outside of Russ being hurt, and Kawhi and PG can never stay healthy. Like, if Kawhi stays healthy, that's amazing. He's the best two-way player. He's top 3-4 NBA player in the NBA when healthy, right? So the big issue is health. So I don't see anybody in the West getting to the finals outside of the Nuggets, really, in my opinion. So that's the main team we need to worry about, which sucks because I agree with you guys. I don't think we could beat them. And it's to Trent's point earlier, it's not even about like them having a shit ton of superstars. Like, I don't even think Jamal Murray is like that amazing. Like, I mean, he's obviously very good, but it's Joker, right? Like, he is just so dominant. The gravity that he has, the way he makes Jamal better. He makes everybody around him better. That's why he's an MVP. But like Aaron Gordon, like Caldwell Pope, like, these dudes aren't like super, super elite. They just fit really well. And I think, going back to earlier in the conversation, that's why we keep saying we want Duncan in the starting lineup, because he's a better fit. He's not a better player than Tyler Hero. None of us are crazy. None of us actually think that, right? Tyler's more skilled, like, as a player overall, but it's just about the right fit. And I don't know if we could beat that team. So
I do have something else to say real quick. So when I'm looking at the West, do not sleep on the Timberwolves. I'm telling you why. Listen, before the season even started, I said the Timberwolves would be a number 1 seed. I wasn't talking to you guys during that time, but I said they'll be a number 1 seed. I thought they were going to figure it all out and stuff like that.
Sure,
and it seems like they have figured it out with Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. They've been doing really, really good over there. But their length is very, very like something that you have to watch out for, right? Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards is a star. So I don't think they go to the championship, but that's a team that, like, if somehow they do, they could put some fear in your heart in that West, because outside of the Thunder, they're too young, like you said, in the Nuggets and Clippers. Like the Pelicans, I'm not scared of them. Kings. The Suns, maybe they could put some fear if they get healthy, but they haven't been healthy all season. Each game, they're getting superstars hurt. So I think we should be fine. I think this is our year. We made our big move for Terry Rozier. And it's funny because I just made a video and I'm getting comments talking about trade Terry already. Like, these Heat fans just can't make their damn mind up. It's crazy, bro. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for hopping on, Nick. Really appreciate your time today. And before we hop off, do you want to let the audience know where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me on. It was very fun. You can find me at the Heat Report by Chat Sports, YouTube, Chat Sports Company, if you haven't heard of it. But yeah, sweet.
Thanks again. And don't forget to subscribe to all of our channels. We'll have the links in our description. So thanks again, guys.
Have a good day. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you. Take care, y'all.
Appreciate y'all.